especially when our children have unique needs or sensitivities, can feel isolating at times. But here, we remind ourselves that we are not alone, that every story, every struggle, and every small success can become a source of strength for someone else. Our topic today, Inside Voices, Inside Thoughts, is something many of us notice in our children. You know, those moments when they talk to themselves, repeat lines from a show or a song, or keep saying certain words over and over again. It can sometimes leave us wondering what's going on. But often, this kind of self talk is a way for children to manage their feelings, calm themselves, or make sense of the world. So instead of trying to stop it, we can start to listen and gently guide to help them regulate and express what they are feeling inside. That's what we'll be exploring together today.
Didi, Didi, excuse me. पेन है आपके पास?
Just going to
पेपर है? एक पेपर है.
Hi, I would request everyone to stay muted. Thank you. All right. It's my very great pleasure to introduce Ms. Jovitha Catherine Joy, our senior speech-language pathologist, and Ms. Kalaiarasi as our occupational therapist here at Stepping Stone Center. Jovitha has a bachelor's degree in audiology and speech-language pathology from MAPS College, Bangalore, and a master's from Dr. M.V. Shetty College of Speech and Hearing. She's worked with children across a range of needs, from autism and ADHD to cerebral palsy and learning disabilities. She's also completed her training in applied behavior analysis. At Stepping Stones, she works closely with our team to help children find their voice and build meaningful communication with the families. Kalaiarasi has been working in the field of pediatric occupational therapy for almost 4 years now. She has completed her bachelor's in occupational therapy in 2021, and over time, she has found her passion in pediatric occupational therapy, helping children build the skills they need for everyday life. She's also working on a few research-based interventions for children with special needs, expanding her knowledge and expertise into research and development as well. I'm really excited to be here today and to see what they have, what they're going to share with us about their learnings and their experience. Really glad to have both of them to share their insights and some really practical strategies to support our children's communication journeys. Over to both of you.
Thank you, Purnima ma'am. Hello everyone. So today we are going to discuss about self-talk. Okay, starting with the overview. What is self-talk? What are its characteristics? The common conditions, functional versus non-functional self-talk, and when self-talk becomes a concern, why to reduce self-talk but not eliminate it? Strategies from a speech therapist perspective, strategies from OT's perspective, a few homework ideas for parents, and conclusion. So, what do you think? If a child engages in a repetitive speech, if they keep on speaking over and over again, or speak lines from a show, or they keep mumbling to themselves, so this is called self-talk. So for many children, self-talk is self-regulation and for a purpose, not just simple, non-meaningful speech. To adults, it can sound unusual or unrelated to the situation, but for the child, it often has a purpose. Next slide. What is self-talk? So self-talk refers to a person's talk to oneself about oneself. It includes all the intentional and automatic self-focused speech aloud or within one's thoughts that runs through an individual's mind. So as discussed, self-talk means talking to ourselves. Sometimes it can be loud or sometimes it is quietly in our minds. But is it okay to talk to yourselves? And does anybody of you self-talk? Well, yes, everyone does it. In fact, is a part of the cognitive linguistic process. For example, you keep telling, where did I keep my phone? When you are looking for it, that means you're trying to recall where your phone is. So that is self-talk, which has a purpose of remembering, processing, thinking, etc. Or example, if you dropped something down and it broke and you say, oh no, what will I do now? So you say that to calm yourselves down. Okay, and that is self-talk. Over to the next slide. Is self-talk normal? Yes, it's part of the normal development. It's a very natural and valuable part of development. Often children aged 2 to 7 years talk to themselves while playing. For example, the car is going fast. Okay. And as they grow, it becomes silent inner thinking. But in ASDs, it may stay a little bit more visible and vocal. But it does not mean that something is wrong. It often means they're thinking, feeling, and managing something. Over to the next slide. What is the purpose of self-talk? So the purpose of self-talk, it can be functional as well as non-functional in nature. Functional meaning it has a purpose, and non-functional meaning it is not very desirable. So functional is when they use it for thinking, planning actions, processing or organizing information, regulating their emotions, coping with sensory overloads, rehearsing language or communication, for communicating and for expressing the emotions. And when can it be not very useful? When it is repetitive, when it is continuous, and when it does not have a very clear intent. Over to the next slide. Self talk and common conditions. Kalei,
Yeah,
please take over. Yeah.
yeah. So, good morning, everyone. So, the common conditions which include self-talk is ASD. ASD will have certain kinds of, they do self-talk to regulate and relieve stress and organize their thoughts. Rather than we are trying to eliminate it, it can be used for their emotional understanding. As parents, we can listen to the child's inner dialogue, how they are feeling and what they are trying to express it out. And in ADHD, it can be coming out of their impulsivity, which is like a excessive self-talk, which they couldn't able to regulate themselves, which comes out of either anxiety or other conditions also. So in anxiety, it's because of the distress. It can be a sign of underlying anxiety, depression, or mood disorders. So this is more related to adult also. And the depression part, persistent, negative, and self-critical. It will be, and self-talk is strongly linked to development and exacerbation of depression and low self-esteem. For example, self-talk, they do like, I'm so stupid, or I'm going to fail, these kind of things, or I can't do this. So these all the kind of, when we couldn't able to do something, it comes out of like, okay, I'm not good enough to do this. And in OCD is something that they are very obsessive. Okay. In OCD, they are very obsessive to one thought and they want to keep on doing it. So that is a compulsion to do the task repetitively, it comes. So self-talk will also be seen in those kind of conditions. And low self-esteem, as we discussed earlier, the anxiety and depression, low self-esteem comes when we couldn't able to complete a task, we feel low. So that's what it is. And social anxiety is like they used to be think about the social critics in the environment. Next slide. And functions of self-talk, as Jovitha said, it can be functional and non-functional. So functional, it includes emotional regulation, problem solving. For example, as Jovitha said, we are searching for a mobile, we will ask, where is my mobile? Where is my mobile? Where did I keep? So we are finding the solution as well as we are doing the self-talk. And it can be self-soothing ourselves because we are doing that to compensate our regulation things. Rehearsal for social interaction. For example, we have an interview or we have something else or we are going to meet a new relative. We used to prepare the child. Like, okay, we are going for school. You after going, you will meet this ma'am. You have to say hi, good morning. So these kind of rehearsals will also comes under self-talk. And self-talk is a form of communication, specifically intrapersonal communication. As I said, it can be used for problem solving, motivation, and processing the emotions. Next. Mic is mute.
Yeah, thank you, Kalai. Yeah, so over to the next slide. Why do we self-talk? As discussed, it is for processing and organizing information, which is a very functional and useful form of self-talk to calm ourselves, which is a coping
Jo ma'am, voice is breaking.
mechanism and not a behavior to practice rehearse language. Okay. So over to the next slide. Play conversations in their mind. For example, it is to practice talking or to understand how others can encourage functional dialogues like that are meaningful. Okay, voice is breaking. Yeah, can we go to the so for the purpose of self-talk is to information. It helps them to make sense of what is happening and what they are expected to do next. For example, they would keep on thinking, first I would wash hands, then I would eat snacks, then play. So, am I audible?
It's getting better now. Can you we start from the beginning of the slide?
Yes, sure. Thank you. So, why do we self talk? Let's know the purposes of self talk. First is to process information. It helps them to make sense of what is happening and what they are expected to do next. For example, they think, first I will wash my hands, then I will have my snacks and play. Okay, and it's a very useful form of self-talk. Next is for self-calming. That is when they whisper favorite phrases or their favorite songs or rhymes. Okay, when they're anxious, and they repeat confirming phrases like it's okay," which results in predictability and familiarity, and therefore less distress. Next slide. So it's the same as we discussed. Why do they use scripted self-talk, which are familiar as they are predictable and emotionally comforting? Example, they say zoom, zoom, zoom while playing with toy cars over and over again. What happens here when they do the sentences again and again? It provides a structure when language itself is hard to express. So when spontaneous language is difficult to be formed out, they use the structure which where they just say phrases from a song or from shows or simply saying things over and over again. Over to the next slide. Now let's discuss what are the differences between the neurotypical individuals and the neurodivergent individuals. How self-talk is different in both of them. So in neurotypical, it is used for reasoning, planning, and problem solving. In neurodivergent, in additionally, they will use it for processing sensory and emotional overloads. And in neurotypical, it is a temporary phase which occurs during play and learning. In neurodivergent, it might persist a little bit more longer and repetitive pattern may occur. In others, in neurotypical, it is a reflection of their thinking and imagination. In neurodivergent, it's a need for and predictability that they need things to be in routine and sure of what things are going to be, how their structure or schedule is going to look like. In neurotypical, it is more silently, and in others, it might be louder, scripted, and continuous. In neurotypical, it reduces as their self regulation matures. In others, it may remain as a coping mechanism into the later years. So, over to the next slide. When does self talk becomes a concern? If the child is talking to themselves most of the time and not responding to others, then it is a concern. And if the speech is very repetitive and unrelated to the present or what is happening at the present, it's a concern. If it interferes with the child's attention or learning or the play patterns or social interaction, it is a concern. If it leads to social isolation am I audible?
Yes. Yes, yes. Now you're audible.
Yeah, so I shall continue. So it becomes a concern. Self-talk becomes a concern if it affects regulation rather than helping it out. And if the child is not able to shift their attention from the inner self-talk to the communication, to the present external communication by people around, then it's a concern. So that is when it becomes undesirable and we need to think of regulating self-talk. Over to the next slide. However, our goal is not to stop self talk completely. Over to the next slide. Yeah. However, our goal is not to stop self talk completely, but to know why it is happening and guide it towards useful communication. Therapy would then focus on helping the child use language purposefully or meaningfully. Over to the next slide. So, what does a speech therapist do in self talk? So, an SLP's role is not to suppress it, but to interpret its purpose, redirect it when needed, and build functional communication in its place. So, SLPs would observe why and when the child self talks, uses individualized approaches based on the function of the self talk, and support the functional communication rather than suppressing it. Over to the next slide. So, some common strategies are functional reframing. It means that we are modeling useful, saying like, I can calm down. Now I can wait for my turn. It's my turn. I have to wait for my turn. And they replace scripts with context-based phrases. Context-based phrases means something uh, with the things that are in the present. Okay. And next is using visual and verbal regulation, like visual cues, emotions, where they can, label their emotions, using social stories to guide, say what to say, when to say, and why.
Jovita, can we go through this slide once more?
Am I audible now? Am I clear now?
Yes, yes. Can we go through this slide
Yes.
once more?
Yes. So where should I start on what does speech therapist do, or for the next one? Common strategies.
Yeah, common strategies will be enough.
Yeah. So we'll start with the functional reframing. So we are modeling purposeful self-talk, like self-talk which is useful, saying I can calm down. Now it's my turn. I have to wait for my turn, etc. And we are replacing scripts with context-based phrases. So when the child is self-talking by recalling something from the past, or singing rhymes or something, we are going to talk about things that are in the present, context based. And other supports like visual schedules, like cards, pictures, or something, emotion charts where they can point out or express their emotions by labeling it, and using social stories to guide what to say, when, and why, and teaching the differences between their inner voice and outer voice. So inner voice is something when we have to talk, when we talk to ourselves, and it should be quiet. And outer voice is something which has to be louder when we talk to others. So this distinction has to come, and we can teach it by modeling it, prompting it, giving them feedbacks, how it is going. And for also for this, they need to have good understanding, good comprehension, and encouraging the emotion labeling rather than expressing it in other ways. Over to the next slide. Yeah. So we can use turn taking and conversation practice. So when a child is self-talking, they are busy with themselves. So we can change their self-talk into social talk, and expecting the reciprocal exchanges. And we can do this by prompting and modeling, as mentioned before, and replacing the language and expanding the language. So when the child is busy in his self-talk, we can expand on the child's self-talk into social talk by saying, uh, when the child says car is fast, we can say, yes, the car is fast. What else is fast? Or which color is the car? Something like that. We can just modify their self-talk into a social talk and conversation. And also we have to reduce the uh, sensory triggers and modify the environment. For that, we can use predictable routines using pictures and all to make them know what comes first, and they are aware of things, and they are informed about how things are, and that will lessen the self-talk needs. Over to the next slide by Kalai.
So here comes the OT perspective where the regulation part plays a major role. The ability to maintain, adapt, and functionally and to give socially appropriate responses to internal and external demands. In this typical emotional reactivity, common in sensory processing disorder, which externally as aggression and internally it would be anxiety. And the co-regulation uh, is the most important thing which we are going to focus on. The person who is going to be with the child, they should be regulated by themselves first to make the child regulated and process the activity or the task appropriately. So here I want to highlight more about the co-regulation because parents or the therapist or the caretaker who is going to with the child has to be more regulated and trying to redirect the child in a towards a task. Next. So in sensory processing disorder, I'm going to talk about the sensory modulation disorder, which is a part of SPD. In sensory under responsibility, the child will have already high threshold of response which is coming in. So the child might avoid when there is a external stimuli coming into the environment. For example, it can be a horn sound in the environment or something else. They try to overreact for that sound because already they have the high threshold of the sensory information within themselves. And sensory over responsibility is the low information. The child already has very low. So the child might want more information, more auditory information from the environment. So they might take a pen and tap on the table, or uh, they might be taking something or making sounds in the environment to calm themselves down to get the appropriate responses which they need. So this I'm talking more into the auditory perspective since it is self-talk. Next. As I said, the auditory over-responsibility sound, it's like fearful sounds, which is like flushing the toilet, vacuum or crackers, or it can be daily sounds like cooker sound or a vehicle horn sound or the truck passing by. So these all the fearful sounds, either they might overreact to it or they might try to avoid the situation and distracted by certain noises. If the environment is calm and suddenly some noise comes, they might get distracted and overwhelmed easily. And frequently covering ears because already they have too much of information of the auditory coming in. They couldn't able to process the external sound, which is again adding up to it. Gets bothered by the crowd or loud places or festivals. For example, the temple, heavy bell sound or something, they couldn't able to process it. And distracted by the background sounds that others do not notice. We might be keep on doing our work, but a small change in the sound in the environment, they might distracted very easily. Next. So this is the under responsibility part, listening to the loud music or TV. So here, as I said, they will already have low threshold of receiving it. So they might need more auditory information from the environment to cope up themselves. Talking self during the task and out aloud. So they might talk aloud in the environment to cope up themselves to maintain the auditory regulation part. And they will find ways to make noises. They might take a toy, put it down, or they know to create certain noises which makes them to calm themselves. Next. So here comes the stimming versus sensory part. Self-talk is primarily a behavior, but it's deeply connected to the sensory and emotional process. So it's an act of vocalizing and thinking as behavioral act, and they try to compensate with the tool of sensory regulation and emotional processing. Auditory stimming is a self-stimulatory behavior involving the use of sounds such as humming, repetitive words, or tapping to cope up with their emotions, regulate senses to manage their sensory overload. So when they have too much of information coming in the environment related to auditory, they try to compensate with either humming or they might make whining sounds or some or the other compensatory mechanism they figure out, and it's self-stimulatory. They make it by themselves. Next. So the strategies, what we are going to do. First, the ethical warning comes in as it is serves a function. We are not going to make it zero. Self-talk, we are not recommending to make it zero. We try to redirect the child to focus on the activities and tasks. So, which all the areas we try to reduce the self-talk while doing an activity when we need the child to provide attention and focus, and when we need enhanced social interaction. When the self-talk is interrupting the social interaction, we try to reduce and redirect the child and increase the task completion. For example, if we are starting a 15 minutes activity and the child starts distracted after 5 minutes of the activity and starts the self-talk, we try to reduce and redirect the child to complete the task. We might redirect by talking about the task or we might start some meaningful interaction with the child to make the self-talk reduce and ask them to complete the task in the current activity. Next. So here comes the cognitive behavioral therapy. So each of the strategies may differ from child to child because the symptoms and the things will be varying from child to child. So here in cognitive behavioral therapy, we are going to use a strategy of 3 C's, which is like catch, challenge, and change. So the cognitive restructuring includes this 3 C's. Catch is something that what they are going through, what is the self-talk they are going through, and trying to get the connect between that self-talk. It can be either because of the toy they didn't get in the morning, or they might be woke up in the half sleep and they are keep on reminding about something and asking it, or they wanted something which they didn't get. So all these things comes as a catch. And challenge is something that we are going to redirect them and tell them that like we will get it later, or you go for the class, complete the class, we'll come back and we'll do the same thing, something like that. And change is that when we redirect them completely to the uh, current activity or the work they are going to do. Next. So to support positive self-talk, we can model self-talk with the child, which is like, yeah, you can do it. You can complete the task. You're doing good job. When they take a little small step, we can encourage them a lot so that that helps them to increase their self-esteem as well. And teaching emotional regulation techniques, which is like a deep breathing, or ask them to go and sit for 10 counts and come back. So all these things to teach them when they are feeling overwhelmed to regulate themselves in a different strategies. And using visual aids and social stories. Social stories something which helps a child to understand what they are doing, how they can cope up with, which may not happen immediately, but eventually when we do it, they might understand the connect between the social stories and the real life things. Next. These are the simple strategies that we can follow at home. We can use a replacement behavior. For example, if they want to do the self-talk, we can give them something, the object which they like to hold in the hand, or talk about something like go and get me water, or kind of a redirection helps them. And differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, which is like we are going to change the behavior which we don't want to a positive behavior. It's like we are redirecting them with a food or sip of water every time when the child starts. And we can also, this is a little bit higher cognitive level kids, we can use a self-monitoring and recording technique. Whenever they do self-talk, they have to monitor themselves and they has to come and get back like in a day I have done this many times, and how eventually we are going to reduce it. So when they monitor themselves, they would able to understand how to regulate themselves as well. And social skills training, which is the very important one we all need for these kids. And it can be come under the group therapy sessions and the regular sessions by training them appropriately for the social skills. And token economy is something like we reward them whenever they are not doing the self-talk. This is also helps them. It can be a normal praise or a tangible reinforcement or edible food, which helps them to understand, okay, I didn't do the self-talk for these many times and I have got the reinforcement. So the self-monitoring, social skill training, and token economy is for the little bit higher cognitive kids and who has a good comprehension and understanding. These all the things will help them. Next. Jovitha.
So now let's discuss about how parents can help self-talk at home. So first is by modeling positive and purposeful self-talk as discussed, saying that if the child drops something, you can say, "Oh, I dropped it. That's okay. I can pick it up." So you're giving, you're telling them that's okay, and you're giving a strategy of what they can do, like picking it up. or something like that. I need to find my shoes. Okay, let's look under the chair. Or I am feeling angry. I'll take a deep breath. Okay, all these are modeling positive and purposeful self talk. Second is turning self talk into conversations, as discussed before, by linking things to the present and replying to the child. Teaching the difference between inside voice and outside voice by modeling it, by practicing whispering games, or even using some visual cues like keeping finger on the lips picture and showing it to the child to be silent, something like that. Teaching emotional and coping phrases, uh, something like I can try again, it's okay to feel sad, I can ask for help. You can write them or draw them on cards, using them like visual things. Always practice them in calm moments, not just during stress. And this will help in their emotional regulation. Using stories and play. So, modeling self talk through pretend play, that can be done. For example, you're building a tower and the block tower fell down, and you can say, oh no, my block tower fell. Okay, I can build it again. Or you can say, in the pretend play between a doll going to school, oh, doll is nervous to go to school. She can say, I can do this, I'll do this, something like that. Reducing the triggers that lead to excessive self talk by keeping the routines predictable, using first, then both, first this, then that, activities to prepare themselves, and offering quiet corners or calming activities like deep pressure activities, rocking themselves or breathing, take a deep breath, etc. Then you have to keep track of the progress or how the self talk goes, and observe its pattern. Not when and why your child self talks, while it is during activity and in place, and collaborate all of these things and inform it to the child's therapy. So thus all these things you can do at home. Over to the next slide. So at home, parents can make a So, how parents can make a difference at home? First is by accepting that self talk is a part of their communication. Stay calm when you notice self talk. It is often a form of self help. Listening to understand its purpose. It may tell you that how the children feel. Join in gently. Turn it into a shared communication. Modeling it how you can use it meaningfully. Guiding it to real communication and self control. So, functional self talk becomes a powerful life skill, helping the children to stay calm, organized, and confident. So, conclusion. Self talk is a normal and a very valuable part of how children think and learn. While some forms of self talk can be non functional and non purposeful and interfere with their communication, it is always important to remember that the goal is not to stop it, but to understand its purpose, guide it towards meaningful use. With gentle support from the therapy team, self talk can be for better communication, emotional control, and confidence. What matters most is how we respond to it by listening to it, modeling meaningful words, creating a calm and supportive space for our children to express themselves. Over to the next slide. Questions. Does anybody of you have any questions?
Please let us know if you have any questions. You can use the chat box or unmute yourself and ask the question. We would love to hear if you have any personal experiences to share as well. All right, no worries. Uh, Reach out to us if you do have any questions later on. We would love to share our recommendations or our knowledge through emails, or if you would want us to add anything additional for the next time we are going to be conducting a session on self-talk, to reach out to us and let us know if you would want us to add anything more uh, from what we already have done today. Uh, how to manage self-talk outside as in social context, I'm assuming. Any inputs, Jovitha Kale?
Yeah, if the child outside, what you can do is like redirecting them to something else. Am I audible?
Yes, now you are.
Yes. Okay. So you can redirect the child to something else. For example, the child is busy talking about something in the past. You can talk about something that you see on the road, or talk about something that see. Check this out. Do you want this? You can make always make the self talk into a social conversation. So redirecting works best. Always, but you should know why the child is self talking. If the function is something different, you have to see what is the purpose. Is it useful? Is it something he's doing to recall something? Then it is okay. But if it is non meaningful, and if it is not without a clear communication intent, then it is always better to stop it, reduce it, and redirect themselves to alternatives. And if still doesn't work, you can use visuals, schedules, and all. Carry with you something. Okay, if it is very severe and all.
So one more thing, what happens is if self-talk always happens in one way. Most of the child, when they do self-talk, they will be keep on doing it and interactions might not happen. Or it can be given as a calm music in the background, or the parent can try to interact one-on-one with the child by trying to maintain their eye contact and bringing them to the present. Or if they are in the park or somewhere else, they can try to engage them in some movement activities by ignoring the self talk if it is non functional. If it is functional and meaningful, we can make the child understand what they are going to do next and how is the day going to move on.
To add on to both of these inputs, I would also like to add that some of these strategies it might be easier to practice this more consistently at home, because home will be a much more comfortable, calmer environment for them to control. They may take a little more time to generalize these skills in a unstructured social environment where there could be a lot of stimuli that are not under their control, that are very new, or that are they may not be anticipating. So it is better to provide consistent repetitions of these strategies at home before we are expecting them to use these strategies in a social environment. Okay. All right. So the key takeaway from today's session would be to observe, redirect, and reward any kind of meaningful interaction. Yeah, instead of unnecessary attention for self-talking behavior. Okay. The most effective time to use these strategies is when the child is calm and regulated, and to use these strategies consistently over time for best results. I hope all of this was clear to all of you. As we come to the end of today's session, I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for showing up, for reminding one another that growth takes time and compassion. A reminder, this group exists for you, to support you, to empower you, to walk alongside you in your parenting journey. You're doing your best, and that is always, always enough. So until we meet again next month, be gentle with yourself, keep observing with curiosity rather than worry, and know that every small step you take makes a big difference to you and your child. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you again for the next session on December 6th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.